let's go back to the Xfinity race with Ty Gibbs and, everything that went down there. I think that there's as unanimous as it is that Ross did something incredible and unique. I think the same opinion is unanimous about Ty's disrespect and how he took his teammate out to win that race. So Brandon Jones is leading the race going down into turn 1 on the final lap. If he wins the race, he transfers into the Final Four to race for a championship. He drives for Joe Gibbs Racing, as does Ty Gibbs. Ty dumped the 19, entering the corner. Brandon hits the wall. Ty wins the race, then gets out and seems to, play along as the heel and has zero remorse in the moment. Now, I'm sure after the fact, all this sort of sinks in. He may be feeling some emotions one way or another, but I was almost as astonished in that moment as I was Sunday and what I saw from Chastain. And it's kind of I hate to get too critical about it or get too descriptive about it because I got 3 cars racing in the championship race in Phoenix, and I don't want to sound biased about my opinions about the move, but golly, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, if one of my guys dumped if our guys were in that scenario, I would have a massive issue with it, especially if one of my guys that was already locked in is taking one of his teammates out for an opportunity to race. Even though there is going to be a change next year, Brandon's coming to Junior Motorsports. He's not going to stay at Gibbs. They still have a relationship with that family that has been going on for years, and so I'd have a big problem with that, and that would take some time to resolve behind at the shop. And then I don't know where Ty goes from here. I really don't. I don't know how he can find some resolution. Public, opinion, how he can sway public opinion. He didn't do him any favors. He did no favors after the race in his reaction and comment.
Mm-mm. I mean, so the Chastain move was hard to process. What I saw on Saturday wasn't hard to process for me. I was totally unimpressed on two sides. Totally unimpressed because that's not even racing. That doesn't take any talent. I'm not a race car driver, but I can run somebody over from behind. And the second part of it was the just complete oblivious concept of what was happening. I mean, what makes great athletes is they have to be very selfish, and their world has to be most important to them. But everyone also has to understand, and the great ones do, there is still something bigger than you. And the layers keep growing. And for Ty Gibbs, what part of finishing second could have been he could have actually gained back some respect from how he has processed through some of the year, and he went the exact opposite way. I was first shocked that he moved the 19 up on the restart, a couple restarts earlier. That alone made me just scratch my head. Like surely he's not going to move this 19 up. I think he was racing maybe the 9. No, it was the 18. Yeah. He moved the 19 up. He basically, people forget Ty Gibbs got both Gibbs cars out of the race. He finally ran them up enough that the 18 had to have a flat. Then only the 19 was left, and then he junks the 19. I mean, it's just. And I'm with you. And then to double down with one of the biggest burnouts you've ever seen, get out like it's some fans are going to like it, some are going to boo, but no, you wrecked your own guy.
And then he's like, bring it on, man. And he was like.
Just oblivious. And then every time they put a mic in his face, he was just pushing more chips in. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I wasn't all in. I found some more money in my pocket. I'm going to push some more chips in. Yeah. And you're like, what are you doing? And he's performance, or he's like in a vacuum. I don't know what part of the real world he's not living in, but I believe that your actions on the racetrack have to be judged by your fans, by your partners, by your team, by your teammates. But these actions, they'll be judged by everyone you race against for the near future. Yeah. And I think it is going to affect him both this weekend and in seasons to come. I think that there's a lot of people in the sport that are going to be unimpressed with that.
I think you asked a good question, Dale, and that is, where does Ty go from here? Because, for me personally, as a fan of any sport, I would say that the one close to unforgivable sin is a lack of self-awareness by the athletes. Like, you can make mistakes, you can miss a tackle, you can drop a ball, and in racing you can do these things, but just being completely self-unaware is like those things. It's like, oh, you're never going to be able to get that fixed, right? Because that's what they bring to the table. Like, watching, I know you guys weren't able to watch this, but as the race is going on, the Carolina Panthers are playing the Atlanta Falcons, and you got this remarkable play by Carolina within a minute, and then this guy catches this touchdown pass to give them, and then he takes his helmet off to celebrate.
Right.
Now, wait a second. That taking your helmet off on any time on the playing field results in a 15-yard penalty. That is a complete lack of self-awareness. And in this case, Ty, Junior Motorsports is going to have 2 cars in the championship, and Joe Gibbs is going to have 2 cars in the championship, and you control that, and you remove your own company's chances of contending by being completely selfish. That's a complete lack of self-awareness. And that's like, I don't think you can fix that.
So how much has Toyota spent? Because he sent a Toyota out and put a Chevrolet in. I mean, the layers upon layers. And it's more than just this. If he does go the 18 next year, which is what I think everybody guesses is going to happen. If you're Denny Hamlin, how do you feel you're going to race him as your teammate?
Oh, yeah.
If you're Truex, we all know Truex. Truex is a pretty easygoing guy, hard racer, You think he's going to be okay with that? Like, wait a minute, my teammate, he just wrecked it. Like at what point? Like, there's a long-term overflow. If you're Christopher Bell, do you be like, man, I got the next, decade with him as my teammate. I don't want him as my teammate. Like it could be a moment in time, and it could be nothing. It could really affect his career. We could look back 5 or 6 years from now, and it could have derailed a company because he ain't going anywhere. His last name's on the building. So if you go drive there. I mean, and that's the other thing is I've heard some whispers out of Coy and stuff, but it's like nobody's really said it. It's just kind of been okay, or I don't know. I would think, to your point about your company, if it happened here, you would have to take a stand because it's kind of like becomes a little bit of the identity of you as an owner in the company. And how can you go talk to your next potential driver or partner and be like, I know that happened, but we took care of it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's been taken care of.
Yeah.
And so I want to see if it gets taken care of on Saturday.
Yeah, I think we had Ty come in here and talk to us and was on the show this year. We had a great time sitting here chatting with him. And judging, so, I'm going to speculate. When he gets out of the car and says something to the effect of, Jesus was hated, so, whatever you want to take away from that comment. I'm sitting there thinking, he didn't learn that. Somebody's told him that. Somebody mentioned that very line to him this week, a week ago, in trying to sit down and say, Ty, this is how we're going to work through this. You've ticked off, in what we've done this year, you've upset some fans, but I'm gonna say something that might make you feel a little better about the situation. And he took that and planted it in his brain, and in that moment decided to recite that word, that advice that was given to him. It's a young dude that is absolutely lacking some awareness, and we all. I look at Sam, and I was saying that this weekend. I'm like, Sam does a really good job, because if I was at 19, I could not do what he's doing. Yes, he's a loose cannon. Yes, there's times where there's a lot of racecraft missing there, but he'll figure it out. I think about how impressionable he is to his own family and to the people in that building. And he's there every day. He's very plugged in. He's not anywhere else. And he's listening to everything they're telling him. And whether they're trying to help him or not, they're telling him these things, and he's taking all of that stuff literally, right? And I think that there needs to be maybe a small adjustment or a big adjustment in how they are internally communicating with Ty, because what it felt like it felt like that he got out thinking, I did what they wanted me to do.
Look how proud they're going to be.
Look how
of me.
happy they're going to be.
Yeah.
I did what.
Yeah.
I did what from what I've been listening and hearing, and over the past several weeks or several months, that I'm gonna get some fist pumps from my guys.
Right.
You see the guys fist pumping him from the crew across pit wall. You know, that's affirmation, and this was a good thing. Nobody, they're not mad. They're not ashamed. You know, and will he get the real talk from Coy and Joe after this scenario, or will he get more? Hey man, we'll figure it. We're gonna work through this. You're gonna have, you know, this is part of it. This is part of the process, you know. And so I think that's because when he said that comment on XM radio, I thought to myself, I can only assume that someone told him that in the past couple of weeks, and he's hung on to that. And it just so happened he thought it was a great time to use that.
It wasn't a great time.
Well, I mean, the problem is, and I've said this about everything.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Like that one, he just didn't pull that one out of nowhere.
No.
That was somewhere in his Dewey Decimal System. And he was going through the numbers, and he goes, yeah, this is the one I want right here.
Yeah.
This is going to defend what I have. We are all just the sum of our actions, right? And we, you know, everything we recite, you know, you could tell when you talk to somebody who's read a lot. You go, man, this guy has a great vocabulary, has a lot of knowledge, has a lot of this. Well, when someone says something like that, that's not a Ty Gibbs original thought. Nope. I don't believe. That is, to Dale's point, that is something he has heard. And we have no idea where it was applied. And that's sometimes the scariest stuff in the world. It's kind of like talking to young children, right? You say something, and then they take a very harmless comment, and they apply it in the most inopportune time. You're like, well, that didn't sound so bad when I said it here, but when you say it over there.
That's what I believe really happened in that moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
And as bad I don't really truly believe that Ty was trying. I mean, I just feel like that hopefully, to your point, it gets handled. There's a little more accountability in this certain scenario for his damn sake.
But what's it take? Like, we haven't heard the 18. Everybody has him in the 18. You know, do they come out and say, hey, man, we decided he's not ready for Sundays yet?
That's what I was going to ask both of you guys.
That's a big – now they're not going back on what they said because everyone speculated, me including, said, oh, he's definitely going there. I don't know why they haven't announced it, but for sure. You know, what is it that moves that – because what I will say about this system that NASCAR has is we have proven that every year we cannot even predict what's going to happen next. Like these – athletes, these drivers, these teams, they blow our mind. Like going to Martinsville, there's going to be a moment. What's it going to be? I have no idea. And once again, we have a moment that we could have not even have dreamt up. But my point is, for Ty, this wasn't the spring race at Martinsville. And then how about this? Then he got out after it. He goes, well, I was wrecked here in the spring. My wife was watching. And she goes, well, that was okay because he said the 19 wrecked him in the spring. I said, no, it wasn't even the 19 that wrecked him. She goes, well, that made it even worse. And I'm like, exactly. Like, my point is understanding the situation.
Lack of self-awareness.
I wouldn't have liked it in the spring Martinsville race, but I'm like, well, he had to win a race, get into the place. He had nothing to gain.
No situational
So in
awareness.
today's world, let's take it out of the sports context for a minute. In my opinion, very good humans go out of the way to help other humans. Mm-hmm. But out of sheer human decency, when it affects you at all, zero, don't go out of your way to make somebody else's day worse. Just in general. Like, hey, man, like, I can just be courteous. I'm not in rush, so, man, we get to a stop sign. Mike, you go first because I'm not going anywhere, right? He took it to the most oblivious. Like, he had nowhere to be. Yet he cut you off, took your parking spot, and then danced his way into the store like the whole world was about him. And that was the point. The celebration doubled down and tripled down. That was the thing is at least have a little bit to – you could argue I didn't mean – because then he said I didn't mean to wreck him. Okay, if that's true you would have thought you had a little remorse in the celebration.
Exactly.
Like if I went in there, didn't mean to wreck you, and I wrecked you, I'd have been like, oh, no, gosh darn it, I'm going to have to tame this down.
It didn't add up.
Yeah.
So, okay, Coach Gibbs told Claire B. Lang that there are going to be consequences. What kind of consequences changes for the better Ty Gibbs?
Nothing that they've tried to do yet. They're going to have to change something because he after the fight on pit road, he talked about how he's going to be different, and then his interviews were, hey, I got to learn more. Like, he has the talking points, but his actions don't match him.
All right, so to be transparent, man, I need the damn talking points to go away.
They're awful. I actually said, remember he had an interview. I don't know if it was you. I don't think you were on that qualifying show. So on qualifying on Friday, we interviewed him, and it was great. It was the best interview I've seen. He was like, oh, man, got in a fight here before, and it's going to be okay. And he was himself, and I'm like, man, I said right on air, I'm like, that's the Ty I want. That's the Ty I know. But now you know why you have talking points. Because, man, they let him out of the box, and he wrecks his teammate into turn one with nothing to gain.
Yeah. So this weekend we'll have nothing but
this weekend it's going to be
robotic talking
Oh,
points.
yeah. I mean, his interview, we could just cut one from about 6 weeks ago and just play it and say, we're just going to pretend we talked to Ty at Phoenix. This is what he sounded like.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, and I know that, listen, I'm preface this by saying this will not happen. I know it. It will not happen because the next race happens to be the only chance the company can win for a championship. However, the only thing that seems to get through drivers' heads is when they are sat out of a race.
He won't be sad.
No.
I know. I said he won't. But I'm telling you, I don't think anything short of that is an appropriate consequence.
We'll see.
I think that the only thing drivers respond to is not being able to drive a race car. Whether it's the 18 in the Cup Series, whether it's this week. I know that they're not going to do that. However, they don't respond to anything else to where it's actually going to affect how they do those things in the future.
So real quick, before we move off Ty, what makes it so frustrating for me is that I think he has everything you want a race car driver to have. He's so talented. He's so fast. Good-looking kid, pretty polished. Some talking points, but I think he has some personality if it would come out. And it's like, man, why do this to yourself? I don't root against anyone. I don't really have any favorites, but I kind of root for everyone. Mm-hmm. And why I was so frustrated because I'm rooting for Ty to be great. Why not? Wouldn't it be great for all of us if Joe Gibbs' grandson could be spectacular? And he is. He's fast. That's why I get frustrated with these actions.
If you enjoyed that conversation we had with Steve Letarte, you ought to listen to the entire podcast. The Dale Jr. Download is available on all major podcast platforms.